Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Izar,
Here.
Commissioner Brazen,
Here.
Commissioner Showalter, Chairperson Foster,
Here.
Commissioner Michelli,
Here.
Councilmember Mikulski,
Here.
Commissioner Manuel,
Here.
Commissioner Hale.
Here.
All right, and we know that Commissioner Showalter will not be joining us this evening, and that Brazen is on her way. Is that what you just said? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, sorry, we moved Hall. I just did that. Have you heard from Commissioner Hall? All right.
I move to excuse Commissioner Hall and Showalter. Thank you.
Second.
It's a motion by Azar and second by Brazen to excuse Commissioners Showalter and Hall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next, we have approval of the agenda. This evening, we just have one discussion item for the potential development proposal for the northwest corner of the intersection at Bermuda in East 9 Mile Road. And there is actually Commissioner Hall coming now. And so if anyone is here to talk about that, that will be at discussion 7. I think we will have a little bit more of a back and forth than our normal discussion items. And I think that because we don't have a full room, I think we'll just leave it kind of so. And so any amendments or edits to the agenda? Just for the note, Commissioner Hall is here at 11:32.
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
As a motion by Brazen, second by Azar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on, we have approval of the minutes for the approval of March 18th, 2026, draft planning commission meeting minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 18th by Commissioner Manuel,
Second.
second by Azar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, since we do have no public hearing, old business, or new business, we'll move on to our discussion item for this evening. Again, that is the potential development proposal at the northwest corner of the intersection at Bermuda and East 9 Mile Road. This is a discussion item for this evening. I anticipate that we'll have discussion on this development a few times or more coming up in the future. This is a proposed public-private development between the city of Ferndale and the applicant. And so we will hear first from the city to introduce the item, and then from a brief overview from the developer, and then we will open it up to the public for discussion.
Thank you, Chair. So today we have Cypress Partners here regarding this project, 135 East 9 Mile and 165 East 9 Mile. We've been in talks with them since approximately August of 2025. At the last City Council meeting, City Council approved to enter into a letter of interest to formally, move forward in good faith to begin the solicitation of public input on this project. So that's where we are today. We are meeting with business owners in the area, residents. We really want to hear from the community. So with that, no action will be taken tonight. We are strictly just learning about the project and wanting to hear from the residents. So with that, we have Mike Parks here with Cypress Partners. We have a few presentations lined up for him to kind of go over the project, a little bit about who they are and what they plan to do. So,
Thank you. And so, sorry, just to reiterate, and from what I've heard, and to repeat what you've just said, that this is still really in concept phase and design phase, and so that's why we're hosting these discussion periods, so that we can use the feedback to make this a development that the city wants to move into.
definitely.
Thank you. All right, well, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thanks you, first of all, for all your time. I've done this a long time in my life, and I appreciate the time you guys spend on this because I know it's more of a job than people realize, so we appreciate your time tonight. My name is Mike Parks. I'm the owner of Cypress Partners. It was a company that I started a couple decades ago. We specialize in projects just like this. We do infill projects around the metropolitan Detroit area. I'm a longtime Michigan resident, and we've done projects most recently in Madison Heights, Troy, Traverse City. We're doing a big project in Northfield Township at the moment. We did a project in St. Clair Shores, which I'll walk you through here in a minute. And just wanted to kind of mention again that this is a classic public-private partnership. It is, I was saying today that it's almost a textbook. You know, if somebody was to write like an essay at a college real estate class, it really lines up just ideally for that. And we're just really excited to work with the city, and we had a nice meeting today with the business owners. Had about 6 or 7, I think, Ross, some of the major stakeholders in this parking area here, and got their input. And I think it ended up pretty positive. They were obviously a little upset about the Vester situation and all that, and you know, we of course weren't involved in that, but I think it ended up pretty good, and I think they are seeing that this is kind of a fix, a permanent fix to hopefully a tough situation there for everybody. So I'll just give you a quick rundown on Cypress. Again, we are a ground-up real estate development company. Again, this is the image you see before here is in Northfield Township. We're taking a 11-acre piece of property. It's an abandoned shopping center. We had a relationship with Northfield Township and Mark Abba, who's the supervisor there. They've been trying to get rid of a shopping center for about 25 years, and our GC that knows them really well got us involved, and because again we kind of are good at figuring out TIFs and brownfields and infill sites, and we did a PUD there as well. That's that site there. There's quick background again on myself. In the
Mike, sorry to interrupt, but just real quick, because I'm sure PUD will be said a bunch tonight. I just want to say PUD, planned unit development, is the type of application that Cypress Partners will be looking to move forward with. It just is a type of zoning designation that allows us to have a little bit more flexibility on site for the benefit of the public. There's public benefit agreements that come along with the approval should it move forward to that. And it looks like I allowed Melissa time to.
I'm trying to find the full screen, but I'm in edit mode. Bottom right. Bottom right? Yes, there we go, thank you.
I could have never figured
Thank
that out.
you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Again, real quickly, I'll run through this. We've done about $500 million in the area in real estate ground-up projects. The most recent project we did was in Troy, Forum Flats. There was an abandoned, not abandoned, but empty office building that was owned by Kelly Services. We converted that into high-end Class A multifamily, built 2 Class A buildings behind it over there on Kurtz Boulevard, and it won a couple of awards. And we recently hosted 20 or 25 of the area planners that came to the site to just kind of see what we did there. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. Again, a lot of benefits to this project that you guys are more aware of than I am, actually, because you've been living with this. And the city did a wonderful job with the fact sheet that really I read through it today and again tonight, and it explains everything actually just super good. So I don't think I need to reiterate all of that. Happy to, again, answer any questions, of course. Let's see. This was the site we finished last year. This was Forum Flats, that front building. Again, I just share this with you not to brag or anything. I just want to show you that we're capable of doing things like this. So that was a 100,000 square foot building in the front that we took and converted that to 90 units and a clubhouse, pool, everything. And then the back are 2 additional Class A market rate apartment buildings. So a total of 200 units. This is what it looked like when we finished.
Don't tempt us with a pool. There's a lot of people in Ferndale that want a pool.
Want a pool? Don't know that we have room for it, but Again, this is the project in Northfield Township that we've just completed the zoning and the brownfield work and all the TIF work with the township over the course of about a year. And that will break ground later this year. That is again, 11 acres. On the right-hand side is high-end retail. In the back is multifamily rental. And the left is for-sale townhomes that Toll Brothers is going to be building, and they're building 70 townhomes on the site. This is a project that we took in St. Clair Shores. It was an abandoned archdiocese owned. It was an abandoned church, an abandoned school, or closed school and a closed church, I should say, that had brownfield issues, TIF issues, all of the same things we're working on here. We tore those down and built a Class A senior housing project for 138 residents. This was up in Ann Arbor on Nixon Road. That's M14 you see in the background. We've built 264 units. That was obviously during construction. The front building and the clubhouse were completed at that point, and that's, again, 264 units in Ann Arbor. This is just an image that we found, and we've been to this site in downtown Detroit, just some ideas that we've got for the alley eventually that will, of course, need everybody's input, but really see that as a wonderful spot to do an activation or a placemaking. Not that you're not aware of where the site is, but it's always fun to see an aerial that kind of really tells the story there, so that's quite helpful. And that's generally our background, and we have the financing kind of already, a lot of financing people are calling me trying to be involved in this, the banks and all that, so they're very excited about it. So there's a lot of support from our end for financing this as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. Jason Krieger's here from Krieger Clad. He'll kind of go through the actual plans and pictures and things, so.
Thank you. I'm sure we will have questions for you.
Yeah.
Through the evening. Oh, go ahead, Jason. Yeah. Welcome.
Good evening, Jason Krieger with Krieger Clad Architects, 400 East Lincoln, Royal Oak, Michigan, Suite A. So I'm going to walk everybody through the conceptual plans that we have to date. Obviously, this is a concept. I think many of you have already seen this or know about it, but we'll still walk you through that. Do we have those plans? I brought a flash drive in case.
Oh, no, all good.
Okay. So this project, as we all know, is right behind Como's, just to the east of it, right along 9 Mile Road. There's another aerial showing us where the site is. Obviously, this is proposed to take the surface lot right behind Como's, as well as the other lot just to the east of that that's been vacant for, gosh, maybe 7 or 8 years now at least.
And just to define, the lot is currently owned by the city, and the other lot is owned by private landowner.
That's correct. This is this, I don't know how to zoom in, but the city lot is right behind Como's. The other is private.
The
being owned by
green
Cypress
grassy
Partners.
area.
That's
Yes.
right. That's correct. So this is our proposed site plan. I guess just to touch on the high level stats of this development. It's a 7-story mixed-use building. We have retail and parking on the ground floor. We also have our residential lobby on the ground floor. We have 250 total parking spaces, and we have 86 proposed apartments. Let's see here. Can you guys see where the mouse is pointing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have 2 ways into the garage. One is right off the alley, which would be on the west side. It's 2-way that comes in there. Immediately in front of you, we have a ramp that goes up. And in this garage, you're parking on the ramps. There's no speed ramps. And then along Bermuda, which is on the east, you can also enter. So you have 2 ways in and out of the garage. Immediately in front of you, when you pull in, there's a ramp that goes down about 5 feet. I'm sure you guys have seen them in parking garages where you can kind of park under the ramp. They go down about 5, maybe 6 feet. Not so deep that you're into the water table, but you're taking advantage of the ability to park under the ramp. You can circulate around through the garage to go in and out either side. We have the retail up along 9 Mile, which we'll show you in another slide, as well as a residential lobby. Something to make note of, which Mike touched on, is we are going to propose to improve the alleyway with better pavement. Hopefully there's some things we can do with the neighbors to make it really special there. We held the building and the project development, like the work, back about 2 feet. So we increased the width of the alley so that it can be 2 ways. So we're making sure that folks can get in and out comfortably. You can see the shape of the building is a rectangle, so you see the gray. So there's some leftover space in that triangular area, and that's where we're gonna propose to put our transformers. There are power lines through the alley to the north. And then, so all the business end items like the trash and everything will be off of the west. So it's off the alley where it belongs, and we're making it wider to make it more convenient.
And Jason, just to further identify, so you're saying the alley will be widened so that it can have two-way traffic?
That's correct.
And make sure that you can circulate there. And then it's currently proposed that it would be two-way egress on the west and the east sides?
That's correct. Currently, yes. Yep. Let's see here. There we go. So this is a ground floor plan of the building currently. You can see where you're coming in on each side. The orange in the southwest corner is our lobby currently. And then this light pink or purple is the proposed retail. We have, I think, 2,800 square feet proposed. And let's see here, to touch on the parking really quick. The ground floor, and now you have to remember these are ramps, but the ground floor with the ramps has about 73 parking spaces. The mid-level is 41. The second floor is 84. The third floor is 52. So that totals up to 250 parking spaces for this garage. Our proposal is to have the residents, which are 86, park 1-to-1. So there'd be 86 parking spaces for the residents proposed currently. The remaining parking is 164 spaces, which would be for the public. The current parking, I think it was 45 when I counted it, and I could be wrong, but I think it was 45. So the net gain in parking is 119 for this area. The next couple of slides are really just the parking deck. So each floor you can see our cores like the stairwells, elevators are going up through, and we're parking. I can show you in a section later, but basically this ramp, as it loops around, it's going up over the retail. So that's why it's shown gray with no parking on it. Parking and parking. And then really what happens here is this gray represents the ramp. You come up, come around, you'll dead end here. So these folks have to back up and then leave. But and the idea, I would think, and we haven't really gotten too far down the road yet, but that would likely be where the residents would be. You typically would nest them up higher so they have a spot to be, and then the visitors can park down below. The next 4 floors is residential. It's a double-loaded corridor apartment building. As I said, 86 apartments. Our mix, we have 74 one-bedroom units, 12 two-bedroom units currently proposed, totaling 86. On the, I guess it'd be on the 4th floor, we do have an outdoor patio proposed, which faces due north. And then from there, it's apartments. They stack all the way up. So we have some conceptual renderings right now. The image right here on the lower right is, I would say, like the inspiration image. We want something contemporary, really nice, create a statement. We would create some really nice screening at the parking levels, so you're not looking at the front ends of cars or half walls. So all these items have to be fleshed out, but we want to do something that's a nice statement. We understand the importance of this site here in Ferndale, and we want to make sure that we do something really great. So. Oh, finally, the sections. I think we already kind of walked through it, but you can see on the top one where the cursor is right here. That's where you would drive in on the alley, and then you would start ramping up, and then this is where you drive in off of Bermuda, and that's where you could park somewhat under grade. And in the purple here, that's where the retail would be. I think that was the residential lobby is right here. So we're kind of tucking all of that underneath the ramp, but that's the concept that we have. So,
Thank you.
available for questions.
Thank you. I think we can maybe move to the public questions and comments first. Would be a good way to start. And so we are going to do this a little bit differently than we normally would, because we really want it to be more of an open, discussion, and we want to be able to answer questions immediately. Too often, if you're coming up and just talking at us, it doesn't allow for as good as input and feedback. And since this is the very beginning of a public-partner relationship and concept, we want to make sure that we give ample opportunity, particularly this evening. And so I will not be limiting comments to 3 minutes. Obviously, I want to be respectful of your time, the commission's time, staff time. So I'll just say that. Just please, obviously, we all want to respect each other. But don't feel stressed to keep your comments in under a certain amount of time. And so if you have questions for the developer, for staff, for us, we will answer in kind during the dialogue. So how about we start with whoever wants to go first, and we'll go from there. And we have you can even stay seated if you want to, or you go to the podium, whichever you prefer.
Through the chair and for the audience, please wait for the microphone. I know a lot of us can speak very loudly, but it does help with anyone who has hearing impairment, and also for the recording for anyone else to follow along later.
Thank you.
So my name is Janet Lawless. I'm a longtime resident. I've lived here actually like 23 years. I lived up on West Drayton for a long time. So I've seen Ferndale go through a lot of changes. I'm just concerned about density in that area because we already have the Vester Street development going up. It's already a well-developed corner already with the 2 or 3 story building across the street, maybe 4 story, I'm not sure. And the traffic on 9 Mile will it be able to handle the extra retail traffic, the extra visitor traffic to the building, right? We have an underutilized dot, like just a block down the street, where I know a lot of cities you have to trot, half a block or a block to go to the central downtown. So I feel like, the density is just an issue, right? And also it's not people scale development. It seems more, high rise type development. So I think it takes away from a lot of the character and nature of Ferndale, like smaller people scale retail brick. And the style of it seems very different than what you imagine when you think of Ferndale. So, let's see. And I know it's not official, but I was kind of disappointed to see not many people here, because there was a commotion on Facebook. I know it may not be considered official, but I hope you guys take into consideration how many people react to it. I don't know how that's counted in your decision, but I think the feedback there is valid still, when you get people saying, no, right? So, and also the green space on the corner, it's a nice family area, especially summer's coming up. I don't know when this is going in, but any summer, we like to enjoy that. It was open with seating and picnic table or 2, and people can just relax. We have our social district, people can, relax with their families or friends in that little area. Let's see here. And the retail and the dot seemed to come in slowly, right? It seems like there was a few retail places there, but I think there's still unused space in there. So, do we want to have empty retail space in the city? So, and plus it just seems like with all the development we having, how much retail can we continue to get without having empty spaces like that? Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add. So I'm, I really, as a person that's lived here for a long time, it's just kind of disappointing to see some big retail mixed use building going in again. And when we have parking and and there's a congested corner and trouble with traffic on 9 Mile. So thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I do want to do mention, I think Jason, the architect, did mention that, you know, this isn't final design. It's really hard to unsee something, right? It's like, it looks like it's already designed. But I think the comments about design are valid. I did just want to repeat for the record, like, I think it's probably because if you put like a white box, it's almost even more difficult to then, I'm not sure, like, this is like a concept, but if you do have comments as you're talking about like the look and what design, if you have any, you know, recommendations, and so feel free. I do think it's a really valid point about the traffic. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion. 9 Mile, clearly, specifically since, you know, the shutdown of 696 has been a concern, and particularly so close to Woodward. We're going to have a lot of discussion, I know, about how traffic will flow. And I know that we're having a parking study coming up, but I think we should also do a traffic study. I think, I mean, we already know that it's going to bring more traffic, and like that's a pretty obvious thing, but I think if we can get some numbers, that would be really helpful. Okay, so thank you. I wanted to make sure I made those 2 comments. And I don't think I heard any other questions, though, just mostly comments, right, Janet? No, yes. Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
If I may, we were expecting a larger audience today too, but there will be.
Oh, that was the another one,
Yeah,
yep.
there will be
Yeah.
several meetings, and there will be public notices, especially when there's a public hearing requirement, where we post it in the newspaper. We do much more of a defined noticing process. So there'll be several opportunities in the future. Thank you.
All right, next.
I hate these microphones.
You can feel free to come up to the other one if you prefer.
That's even worse. No, whatever. So I will say I've lived here 17 years as well. My name's Mike. I live over on Academy, and I will piggyback the traffic concerns. I work in the area as far as in restaurants and things like that. That alley is always a mess. And what we have to understand is that the density, it's not just the density, it's the fact that we can't get to this parking structure. If you're going now northbound or southbound on Woodward, how are we going to get there? You're going to clog up that alley 2 ways. You're going to clog up Bermuda. You're going to clog up 9 Mile. People are going to be driving around in circles constantly. There's not going to be any way to do this properly. You're going to have people turning onto 9 Mile and then making an immediate left into the alley, which they already do now.
Even
Times
though it's
that
not
by
allowed.
20.
Yeah.
So now you're going to have a backup all the way down Woodward and all the way down everything else. That, my suggestion would be to have that alley not even be an entrance, because there's no way to even bother doing that. Because we're so clogged already and watching that, working at a restaurant right there, people are running into each other already. It's just not feasible. The second point I would like to make up is money. What are we on the hook for? As a taxpayer in the city, watching the past 17 years of development have not been pretty. We never get anything we have no ROI. We have no return on investment on virtually anything we do. It's always give. Tax break. We got a mural. We got a sidewalk. We got a whatever. We never get any tax money coming in, and then not to be a shot, but every 6 months to a year, I get a letter, hey, we need a new millage. We need something else. We got another police and fire thing coming up. We got a library thing coming up. We got a school thing coming up. We always have a smart thing coming up. We always have a zoo thing coming up. This is not the time to do these kind of things in this environment, especially nationally, when we're already all broke. So I want to know, can we enlighten our public on, be upfront about it? What are we on the hook for? We're paying the $12 million. Are we getting tax breaks on top of the $12 million? Why? Why are we doing these things? Like, why am I supposed to pay for these things and then also pay for other things and then make the pot sweeter for everybody else? And then I'm subsidizing rent on top of that because we need to make affordable housing. Let's make affordable housing for everybody in Ferndale instead of keep raising millages and this is what we keep going through. And it seems to be a pattern of the last 20 years of we want to keep building and building and building and pretty, but we don't actually ever solve any of the issues that we're going through right now. We're not solving anything. You know, I just saw a post today about our wireless meters breaking again. Our streets are crumbling. All of these things we need to do, but we're constantly building new things. The third thing I would like to touch on that really quick is I worked in Royal Oak for 16 years. I worked at Little Tree Sushi Bar. We died the minute that structure went in behind us. There's no argument about that. It just happened. We watched Andiamo's come in with 9 trucks and move out, and that whole block shut down. It destroyed us with the construction for, you're looking at 2 years. Are you prepared for Woodward to be empty? Because we're building all these structures and things for more parking and more for the businesses. Bobcat Bonnie's has been closed. Rosie's is empty. You guys aren't doing anything about that. Why are all these buildings empty? Who are we building these things for? So I need to know if we want 200, 300, 500 more customers, where are they going? Certainly it will benefit my restaurant, but we have empty spots here that have been here for a long time that nobody's even doing anything about. Like I said, not a shot, but we need to address those things first. We need to fill our storefronts first. We need to come up with businesses that are going to be filling them before we plan out, I need 1,000 more parking spaces for who? It's just a thought. I think we're getting ahead of, because we have this mentality of the last 25, 30 years, and you watched Royal Oak fail on this a lot. Let's build 7 structures, the customers will come. That's never the case. It's not how that works, because most people don't want to come in. They want to plunk 2 quarters in, walk in, get 45 minutes worth of lunch, and leave. Our lunch business will scatter once this is built. Done. People will not come in for 45 minutes, crawl 3 flights of stairs up, get a ticket, do all this crap. Our lunch business is gone. And I watched it happen in Royal Oak. So those are my concerns. It's like, are you doing studies based on those things, and what are we charging ourselves? Because you're getting ready to ask us for a police fire millage. You're getting ready to ask us for like $60 million. Where's these bonds coming from? How many bonds can we issue? What's the return on investment? So I would like more of those questions. I like the development, other than, I'm not opposed to development. The traffic issue is a main issue. The alleyway is just not, in my opinion, I'm watching it. So it's just not feasible. Unless you can come up with another entrance off 9 Mile, which is maybe possible, I don't know. But it's more of the financing. We never seem to get the answers we need in Ferndale until it's already a done deal, and then we're all angry at each other. And I think that you guys need to be much more proactive on the front end and say, we've thought of these things. We need to answer these questions first. So, that's just my, 2 cents. But,
Thank you, Mike.
I have a lot of those questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And we did have a meeting earlier that was mentioned with the business owners where the city manager was present, and she did give a presentation more on that, and maybe we could use, would you want to kind of give more of an overview right now?
Sure.
I think that would be helpful.
So right now it's proposed, it's about anywhere from $12 to $15 million bond. We haven't really figured that out yet. But that would be paid through through revenue from the parking structure. Also, the developer is seeking a brownfield TIF, a tax increment finance. So the increase in property value generates increases in tax revenue, correct? So that tax revenue will be provided to the developer and then reimbursed back to the city.
So we're making money on this development in general.
Correct. I mean,
The parking thing, that's another chat. Another thing with the parking thing, the DOT was told that we were paid for that through parking revenue, and it never happened.
Right.
So is this the same situation where the DOT is not funded and over debt at this point, and we're paying for that out of our general fund, as far as I know? Is that number 2? And then is number 3 coming? And then
Right. No,
when does this stop? And that's the craziness that a lot of the people in Ferndale, I don't speak to them, for them, but what I'm saying is I'm watching this at home, and I'm like, we're getting lied to again. Either correct it, or tell us the real deal. This is not going to pay for it, and you guys are going to have to pay for it. One of the two, I don't care, but just say that up front, because we watched that with the DOT.
the current cost revenue projections that we have right now says that it works, and that's why we're at the table now, right? That's why we did the letter of intent. That's why we're facilitating. Right, for sure. And what was mentioned earlier, we are doing a pretty in-depth parking study and cost feasibility study to really ensure and lock in on the numbers, on the projections, on understanding what are, what's the current, the usability of these parking lots now. I think lot 13 on like a Saturday night, it's like 98%, 99%, it's, at capacity. So the consultants that we're gonna be working with are gonna be really going in depth to understand what is the current parking conditions right now, because I think we have figures from 2023, we constantly, review parking conditions, but we're locking in that third party to really do a deep dive analysis on where we are.
The net gain is, we're paying $100,000 per parking space. I just ran the numbers on a calculator. So for the net gain of parking spaces, we have to pay as a city $100,000 for one parking space. We just had 119 parking spaces net from what we're giving.
Right.
It is about the cost of a parking space, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Jason?
are we making enough money to pay that back?
Right.
Sorry.
We'll be very, we are going to be transparent throughout this whole process about where we are financially, because, we don't want to find ourselves in another dot situation. I think everyone understands that, right? Like, we want to really make sure.
Mean about it or shitty about it.
No.
People in this area are starting to get kind of frustrated with the constant 20 years of, hey, this is going to be roses and whatever, and it never is.
Yeah. I think the benefit is that we have learned, and we did have the dot to learn from this. One of the reasons why, and this was talked about, I think, now multiple times, is that do we need the parking? Because we do have the dot. It's not to the, maybe not always looked to be used to the full extent that it could be. And so, again, we are doing the parking study to really justify or verify, what is needed. Additionally, as I said, we met with the business owners. Like this, there is a need for parking in the area as defined by a lot of the business owners. And I think to your point of parking deck is different than a parking lot. We also don't want to just, start raising buildings and building parking lots. So I think we're looking for a solution that does benefit everyone, brings in new housing at the same time. And so there are benefits and trade-offs, and obviously we're trying to really analyze all those now, and who's paying for it, and is that fair to everyone? So go ahead. Yep. Sorry. Yep. Microphone.
Through the chair, could I make a quick comment?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So let's talk about the dot, the albatross of the dot. As Michelle said, we learned a lot from it. One of the key differences, as described to me by the city manager with this project, since I think it's pretty clear how I feel about it, is that this is a one-phased approach rather than a three-phased approach. With the dot, we were promised residential and office space on top. Part of the funding that we were supposed to get from the dot would also include that kind of TIF capture property tax payment that should have offset all of the costs associated with it to pay down that bond. Obviously, that didn't happen. The developer's in breach. With a project like this, sorry not to stare at you ominously, but with a project like this, it doesn't happen unless the residential gets built on top. And that's kind of the funding mechanism. So we've got the public portion below with the built-in funding mechanism up at the top that we would capture that $275 per year that we can then put forward into the bond that we would take for the $12 million for the parking structure, if even any of this is something that we're amenable to. And depending on how, all the negotiations go with the Planning Commission and all the input therein, and what that looks like as it pertains to the overall scope of the development. So I hope that's a little bit clearer. Yeah.
So have you factored in the number of spaces going in with the new structure on Vester?
Yes, that would be factored in.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And
Good
also
point.
there's been like alternatives like valet parking, like to transport people from the dot down to Como's or the center of downtown Ferndale too. So like, are there alternative parking solutions being explored too? And he's right, like we do have these empty spaces, right? So are we gonna, do we really need to invite new spaces in town to just sit empty? Is it too much for downtown Ferndale?
Thank you. Yes, and it's a good question, and we we'll be looking at that through the parking study. And the DDA is looking at other alternatives, particularly also for the construction period, because we know that the construction period will be very difficult on businesses. And so what can we do in the meantime? We are a community of small businesses. I think we all really appreciate that. That's the part of our fabric, and we don't want to lose that. So I want to give the next person an opportunity to, if there's the next brave soul to raise your hand. Right, over here.
Hello. Hi, James Van Steel. Been a resident of Ferndale for about 5 years. I apologize, I missed the first 20 minutes or so I may be missing some information. But just looking at the renderings and the schematics that have been shared as part of the agenda packet, I think some of the concerns that people have already raised do resonate with me. I think particularly the alley access point. That is already a highly congested in and out point for the existing businesses. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic, including intoxicated pedestrian traffic that moves through that space. So adding hundreds of vehicles a day, I think, I'm not sure if Bermuda has been looked at as an alternative access point or how disruptive that might be. But I would just want to echo that point, that I think the alley is maybe not the correct access solution here. The other thing too is the net gain of over 100 spaces. So right now we have private parking and city parking on some of this space, or not private parking, I guess, just city, and then empty space. Do we need a net gain above and beyond the needs of the new residents and the existing parking of that much in that space, which would exacerbate some of the circulation and traffic impacts that have been raised? I think also that would contribute, a lesser net gain would contribute less to the density concerns that people have as well. So we have, ground floor, nothing right now, going up to 7 stories, which would be by far the largest or tallest building in the city, very prominent. It's just a rapid transition that maybe could be lessened if it were 6 stories or 5 stories, and basically achieving the same amount of new housing, the same additional retail space, and still a net increase in the available parking without it having to be quite that magnitude of new parking. So just some thoughts there. Again, I haven't crunched any numbers. I understand that the parking itself is part of the payback mechanism, part of the financial sustainability of this project. So there's trade-offs, as you mentioned. And then the third thing too is sort of, somebody else mentioned this, the loss of what's perceived to be public space today. So right now it's unprogrammed, it's not engineered to be a park or anything like that, but it is where a lot of our street festivals take place. And just from a line of sight, sunlight, airflow, the feel of downtown Ferndale is pretty shaped by the absence of a building there right now. So if you go to places like Ann Arbor or Royal Oak, where a brand new large building goes in, it very fundamentally changes your ability to navigate, your understanding of, how to orient, I guess, within our small downtown. People will figure it out, we'll all adapt. But I do think creating something maybe akin to what Ferndale House has, which is a small public plaza or park space that is an orienting point, a landmark of some kind that also accommodates and caters to the large amount of pedestrian traffic entering and exiting at that alley point. I'm just wondering if the designs as presented, if you really need to take up every square inch of this parcel, if it can, maybe be 90% of the parcel that's developed vertically, but some portion is retained for sort of human scale interactivity or gathering space. So access, the amount of parking, and that sort of public space preservation, I think, are my 3 concerns or suggestions, really. Thanks.
Thank you, James. I don't think I need to repeat it, but because it will be mentioned many times. It already has been mentioned many times, but I think the parking study will really, just to reiterate, identify like what is the parking need and where, but also at the same time, obviously, like you have already identified, it's a balance between how does the financing work? And so the mix between the number of units and the parking spots, and that all plays a big factor in how to make this work. And just to kind of reiterate what some of what we heard at the business meeting is they were actually looking for more parking. So it's really funny to, I know there's different stakeholders, different contrasting views, and how we're looking at this. So, which is why we want to have many of these public sessions so we can hear, everyone's opinions on this. So thank you, appreciate it.
Well, and through the chair, just to take a little bit of issue with the statement that there's going to be 119 spaces added. We're really looking at 86 spaces for the units out of 250 spaces. 75 spaces are what we lost at 141 Vester. 46 spaces would be what we have in the Como's lot. So we're looking at sort of a net gain of 43, but the reality is it might not actually be a net gain of 43 because we also lost spaces with some of the bike lanes, and I can't remember exactly how many we lost with that. So it's not this massive boon in parking. It's replacing what we lost and what we would lose if we do something with the Como's lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. And for the new Vester apartments that are going up now next to Valentine, that's the lot we're talking about. At the time of that project, we were looking at doing a parking deck, if anyone remembers, that was actually approved and never came into fruition. So that is something that this is also addressing, is the kind of the loss of that parking that we were hoping to offset the loss of that lot. So thank you.
Through the chair, is it possible to do like a shadow study in regards to the height of the building? I was reading up on it last night before.
For the building, yeah, that's something the architects can do. Thank you.
Through the chair, there is the east-west alley between the proposed building and like Syndicate Folio that's currently blocked with a dumpster. Would the parking study look at opening up that alley so that there could be more circulation?
Is that still public, or has that been decommissioned?
I feel like that was a grease trap that's back there.
But that alley, do we know if that's still
The
public?
alley's public? I'm not entirely sure. Do we know?
Public.
The alley, yeah.
Internally, we don't have a plan.
To my knowledge, that alley is public. That's a very good question. And internally, we were discussing, what can we do to do maybe more of a collective dumpster grease reclamation type situation for all the folks around there to clean it up, because we do have that triangle piece right there, and then open up that alley behind the building, behind this proposed building. So yeah, that's something that we discussed, but we're not there yet, but we're getting there hopefully. So
I think part of that circulation issue, and right now, that's part of the issue why we have some of the circulation issues we already have there is because that alley is blocked, right?
Correct, yeah.
So I think, and that's been that way for a while, and it's
As I
nothing to do
remember,
with this project.
yeah.
So, but that might help alleviate, or you look at if it's just an exit onto the alley from the structure and entrance from.
There's more ways to relieve traffic, right? Yeah, understood.
Thank you. Yes, we should add that to the traffic study scenarios.
Through the chair, Jenny Beaker, I'm the executive director of the DDA, and I'll try and hold my comments for any later purposes. The alley behind where Folio is, there is also a DPW managed trash compactor back there. So that is part of the downtown sanitation, and that trash compactor is utilized by multiple businesses.
Okay, thank you. All right. Who's next?
I just want to add
Go
a
ahead.
quick comment about, also you have to remember with the parking the parking studies, don't forget about the people that have passes and permits for restaurant workers and things. I don't know if you guys ever include those, but there's quite a few of us that are taking up those spots, and those go away. So where do a lot of the restaurant permits park? Are they taking up those spots in these new structures? is there a way to partner with somebody like Credit Union One to give us those spots for restaurant workers and other workers that work in the city to get them out of the downtown Is there another idea here on the, because we have a lot of them. So you could remove, in theory, you could gain 50, 60, 100 spots, depending on what's in Withington lot and whatever else, all those long-term parking lot spots, if you could move those permit spots to somewhere else, or we lose them, and then we have to start paying $100 a month to come to work.
Yeah, thank you. That is something that has been discussed and is part of the parking study, so appreciate that. You made another comment. I was going to, what was another point that you made? The parking passes and? Credit union, thank you. Yes, so we, the city has been in discussions and is making more progress than historically have, so that's good news. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Anyone else? We've got, we can hear any comments, questions. We will have other opportunities, so this is a really great start. I think these are all things that we expected to hear and are, concerned about. And traffic was probably my number one coming into it because I have the same concerns being at 9 Mile, particularly with that alley entrance so close to Woodward, and being able to figure that out. And adding this many units will obviously have an impact. So we'll look forward to getting a traffic study on that so that we can further analyze and figure out circulation there. And, we'll probably talk about solutions such as, I think that keeping the alley open, particularly for deliveries, is probably a must because we need that circulation. But how can we potentially design it so that we don't have people turning left from Woodward where it says you're not supposed to, but people still do? Or, how can we design it so for safety? And for circulation so that we can continue to keep traffic flow on 9 Mile. All right, so from the commission, any questions, comments? Do we want to go down the line? Who wants to start? Do you want us to go by topic?
Sure.
You want to start with traffic? Anything further there? Circulation?
I guess I'll since we just made Vester one-way from basically the alley forward, that could be a way of alleviating. If you were to use the alley, you would come in off of Vester and then come down that alley. That could help with the traffic flow instead of coming in off of 9 Mile. Something to think about there.
Yeah, my thought would be ideally keep it entirely off of the alley and 9 Mile. And I'm really curious about the alley to the north of the site that we're talking about. And I heard the grease trap thing. I think if this Google map is accurate, that's a little more to the west. And so I wonder if there is a way to get egress off of Bermuda and perhaps some sort of exit through that alley. I echo the sentiments about, drunk restaurant goers in the evenings stumbling through that alley, and in the turning situation backing up to Woodward. Sometimes the train gets backed up to this point, and so it's just there's a lot happening there, and I think focusing on Bermuda is really the answer, or it should be focused on.
To add to the alley point, we want to make the alley improvements. That's kind of a design theme that was discussed just a little bit tonight, but in other conversations where to really improve the alley so it's a benefit to the business owners and et cetera. But to do that, that means making it more of a pedestrian alley, which means more conflicts with traffic. So
yeah, I guess I wonder how dynamic your capital stack and all this stuff is, if how much we lose if there is only access through Bermuda. And I just see that alley being, especially with two-way traffic, right? Maybe I could think, and this was what I first thought was going to happen, it would be kind of one-way flowing potentially, either entering from the alley and exiting Bermuda or vice versa. I mean, that, I like that more than two-way going into, with two entrances and exits. That's just a lot of activity there. I did wonder too, you mentioned the water table on going down, on digging for the parking structure. Was there any thought, I wonder if there was thought or kind of analysis done to consider digging down for parking to alleviate a little bit of the height concern?
Yeah, and I guess I would look to the developer to, provide more color on this, but that's typically a non-starter when you're looking at a parking garage, just from the cost. You might go from 100 to 300,000 a space. It's super expensive to go underground. Going down 5-6 feet is one thing, You go underground, it's a whole other animal, that's for sure. So we're trying to do this above ground.
Yeah. Thank you.
And, sorry, the city is paying for the cost of the parking and being refunded through the tax structure and parking revenue. And then, so how, maybe a little color on like, the site costs are gonna be covered by the developer, like, so I guess my point is, if we did go down, the city would be covering those costs, right? Obviously, and then,
You're asking how much wiggle room there is potentially
well, I know
for-
that the city's not gonna be able to afford that, but.
Well, sure, but like, I mean, the payback balance of sunk cost versus parking revenue, I'm just curious if there's any,
What's the?
it sounds like it's a non-starter, and I think I understand why. Another question, though, since you're standing there, was there any talk into, and this is sort of, I guess, for everybody, was there any talk into making this pedestrian, or the alley closed to
No.
vehicles?
No, we always felt that it needed to be open just from either initially the standpoint of actually it being functional for the businesses that are on Woodward, so trucks can still get through there. And then also, could it become a pedestrian via to get elsewhere, right? And if you close it, pedestrians can go there. But the project just north of here, 141 Vester, that alleyway is still open. And so we felt that it was a like-minded thing to keep it open, improve it as best we could, widen it, and basically just keep it open and let especially the trucks during the day, whenever the deliveries happen, let them get in there.
Yeah.
And trust me, I get we all get the fact that alley is so close to Woodward, but that's why we have two different ways in, different times of day, et cetera, et cetera. Getting here today was crazy. I think a lot of it's because of 696 being shut down. It took me 25 minutes to get here. I was shocked. I texted Mike, and I can't believe it. But I think, I'm hoping in like a year or so when that's all done, it alleviates a lot of these issues. Because I don't remember being that bad around here.
696 is, I've definitely exacerbated it, but, and to the point of closing alleys, I think it's actually in our master plan to not close alleyways, just because they do serve for, circulation. However, no, I don't think it's a bad point, because I think particularly if we want it pedestrian friendly, but I think that there's been ideas of, we talked about how there's a lot of festivals in this area, and like, when we can flex for shutting down roads, and is there, have you worked with, different methods in the past of like temporary closures? So like maybe after a certain time of day, like leave it open for daytime deliveries, but like, is this something that you've done on different projects before?
We've discussed that on a couple different projects over the years, but the city just leaves it open, in my experience, unless there's some special event. That's what I've experienced. I don't know.
Special events is a little bit easier to.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Versus a daily thing. Jenny.
Through the chair. I apologize again. I will try and represent comments that have been shared with me as the DDA director, not offering any opinion, but just sharing things for consideration. With the alley access, I think what you have both just spoken about of it almost being like mixed use, I do believe that is very important for the businesses there to receive deliveries that are necessary. The deliveries can't really be made by Woodward. There is also, again, access to a dumpster or a trash compactor. There's a lot of refuse various types of refuse coming from businesses that have to be accessed by larger trucks or whatever that sanitation planning would look like. Additionally, it would, I think, be great to have I think having a wider alley is nice because it makes that more open and approachable, like access point to a space. It doesn't seem like a closed off dirty alley. It is an access point to other doors, and most of those doors have back entrances as well. One other thing that we have seen with programming in the downtown relative to the parking structure on West Troy, there is only one entrance on that is accessible via West Troy. So that prevents us from shutting down West Troy in some ways, because if we need the parking for attendees, we can't shut down the street to have placemaking. So I think that would be a great consideration if the recommendation will be Bermuda. Will there be an entrance and exit? Are there ways in and out via Bermuda, or there be an alternate possibly on 9 Mile near that corner? And I think that covers it for now, as far as, again, like the placemaking and the traffic patterns, but access that is really critical to operations of the surrounding businesses.
Alex, is that it on the traffic?
No, I think, I look at this as just, not to give a ton of sentiment, but I was at the meeting last week, and there were people begging for parking, and then the next presentation was this mixed development offering parking. And so I generally think it's a good idea. I just want to make sure we work out the kinks and keep that alley safe, basically. That's, like, my only thought here is just that alley.
Yeah, absolutely. And as mentioned a few times, the parking study or the traffic study is going to help out immensely. They're going to tell us level of service, different areas, recommendations. This is a process. Sure. We get it. 100% get the weight of everything, yeah.
Through the chair, if we have the entrance on Bermuda, how many parking spots do we lose? Because I know there's parking on that side.
Oh, there's, I think, 3 spaces on site on Bermuda currently, so we probably lose 1 or 2. The on-street.
Mm-hmm. Boy, I don't know, but probably 2 if it's a 20 or 22 foot wide drive coming in. Maybe 1, I'd have to look. I don't know.
And then I know we can't control human nature, but with DoorDash and those folks, they're just running and park. No matter if it's a 2-way, they'll park on the grass if they wanted to. So I think we have to consider that as well. And I believe Comos have 2 parking spots as well. So that could be difficult as well for pickups. So I'm just trying to think with all that.
That's a very good point, actually. And I'm sorry. Oh, I thought so. Okay. But that's a very good point, and that's definitely something we need to look at, because what we've done in other projects in downtowns is we'll stripe maybe a certain area for things like that. I get people might park illegally, but you at least just stripe for a DoorDash or whatever it is, deliveries. So
I think that's something we have to look into, particularly through the construction period, is striping for deliveries, particularly in this area, at least 1 or 2 spots. I think that will be really helpful. This is something that we discussed on the West 9 apartment building over by the church, is kind of striping. I don't know if we have it anywhere else in the city, though.
Through the chair, the Raymond Shepherd House, I think, has a Pluto pickup drop-off.
Okay. Janet, did you have something? And do you have a microwave phone? It's just since we're recording. Thank you.
What about the couple spaces on 9 Mile, like directly east of Woodward? Do you have to count those in your net spaces, right? So there's like 4 spaces there, I think.
Like the south side of this development directly. Yeah, there's actually, I think, like 8 or so. So those are
saying there's 4 spaces that you're really gaining, right? Net after you replace what's already there and so forth, right? So that's something to think about too.
So
what about
using
parking?
those spaces? Is
What
that
about parking? I don't think there is parking across the street, right? It's a bus stop.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. No, thank you.
And I believe, Laura, aren't we looking at adding more parking on Bermuda right now too, and East Breckenridge?
Yes,
A
and
bunch of different areas.
do you happen to remember if we had slotted that as employee parking in not Breckenridge? Well, maybe Breckenridge and Bermuda. I can't remember offhand.
Yeah, we're considering everything right now, but yeah, I can't remember offhand either.
Okay. do you have anything else on traffic or circulation? Or we can move on to other considerations. I think one thing that I heard, and I think we want to continue to talk about, is the design feeling pedestrian friendly. And so when we're designing for the street and making sure that people do feel like they're walking downtown and feel like they're walking downtown Ferndale, not, Chicago or whatever. You don't want the building to feel imposing, and I think we can design for that.
Yeah, because I think based on the comments, I think people are fearing that it's going to look like that one building on Woodward and 696 in downtown Royal Oak, right across the street from the zoo. Because it does kind of mirror that design a little bit.
The Griffin.
Yeah, the Griffin, yes. Yep, that one.
Yeah.
Through the chair, design aside, because the Griffin has a certain look, but you see it from a distance. And street level perception, and my thoughts are going toward the size and scale of the building right off the top. So a couple of thoughts. Start at street level. We learned when Ferndale House was built that it's not great to have a big blank wall on a high circulation or what should be, you don't get the feel of neighborhood. Obviously, they've Schiffer Park and bringing a business in at that first level, but the whole length of it just really, we learned from that. So one of my larger concerns is really, again, just putting parking up against the face of your downtown where all the circulation is. That's a concern that I think can be solved. The second thing is just the scale of the building. Do we want something this large? If our largest ones now are at 4 or 5 feet, I know credit union one might be a little bit higher, but it's set back and it's not at the edge. It doesn't have as big of a presence. So is this what we want? I know when we were looking at maybe a couple iterations ago of the zoning and heights and, having a high point at the intersection, stepping down, just the overall, how is Ferndale developed? How do we vision it that way? This is a much, much larger building scale-wise. I was kind of surprised in one of the renderings when it was shown next to the lofts and it just dwarfed them. And that's a reality. It's going to be bigger, bulkier, and again, I'm not speaking to design, you can do a lot with that. It's just going to have such a presence that may not really even fit in Ferndale. Another way to look at that is if parking wasn't an issue, let's say parking was handled, didn't have to be incorporated, would we want a 7-story building here, or are we just getting that big because we're trying to wedge a lot of parking in? So just stepping back and saying, does something like this fit in Ferndale? Does it fit our vision? Does it fit long-term? Do we want more of it like this? Are we going this direction? Or is this a one-off because we can make it work, but what does it do to the character? That's where my thoughts are.
Thank you. I appreciate the commentary and sentiment there and the discussion opening up for the character. I think because this is being submitted as a PUD, this is thought to be by the city more of a one-off versus a change. I will note that also, though, we were just talking earlier today about the timing of the master plan is coming up soon. And so this is also something that can be addressed as we reopen for an update to our master plan. So I think currently the thought is, it is a one-off. This is not necessarily, we didn't change our zoning ordinance to look like this. And that was very much intentionally done so. That the city, for this public benefit of parking that has been requested, is looking to do this. And I think the scale is tied to the financial structure and feasibility and to the sizing of the parking. And just, again, to reiterate, we will have the opportunity for a master plan to then see if, a reaction to this. I don't think that negates the conversation today. I just want to put it in the context of the overall planning for the past 5 and future, 5 years, 1 to 2 or whatnot, as we go through our planning process.
Through the chair, You just reminded me of something. EV stations, the ratio between the residents and also the public. How would that impact all this? Because if we have the stations, not everyone has an EV. And I think that was another contention from folks with the dot as well, the usage with that. I think we got to talk about that a little bit.
They're constantly full, so I don't think it's an issue in terms of having empty slots, I don't think. I think that will continue to, well, I don't know. Today, the political environment's a little bit different for EVs, but from my understanding, and let's make sure to put that in the parking study as well, is the EV nature, because you're right. Well, because when we slot specific spots that aren't able to be used by everyone, it will count against, the transitory nature of the overall count. EVs being one of them. Would that be a good segue to your comment?
Yeah, through the chair, and thank you for bringing that up, because I had our EV charging ordinance that we defined in Zone Ferndale up. It's defined today for parking structures as 10% EV installed, 10% EV ready, and 15% EV capable. And I think that's something to consider as in line with our climate action plan. Part of that as well, I know, just parking in general, in the initial layout, I think you only have 3 identified accessible parking spaces. And that's something for the projected 250. It would be at least 9 accessible parking spaces with 7 standard, 2 van accessible. And then that replicates to any type of parking we have. So if there's EV charging parking, at least per Michigan Building Code, it's 5% of that has to be accessible. And if, however this shakes out with residential for deeded and assigned parking, or however it's determined, that ratio would have to be determined too. So I know, like, in the projected 250 that we're talking about, through the accessible parking conversion, it ends up being like a little less. Something to consider, though, is the need for proximity parking for our residents with disabilities, where those are the minimums. So finding ways to maybe get creative with some of the space layouts to go above the minimums in parking would be preferred, given just how many businesses are served by this kind of potential lot. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right. If anyone has any comments, questions, any topic, feel free to.
Yeah, I'll add on to sort of the pedestrian comments that Krista made. I agree with a lot of it. Especially I heard years ago as we built our zoning ordinance that we were learning from Royal Oak with their heights, and that was purposely why we set our ordinances at the heights that we did. Just comments on the design, and I know this is obviously preliminary, just as we talk about pedestrian, I'd be interested to see how how proposed signage would look like, because there's those little canopies at the first level. And if the sign's above it, that really doesn't help the pedestrian. So seeing them something below, or how that would work. I also, looking at the plan with the lobby being right at the very corner, I feel like there's a missed opportunity for that retail space to have that corner be something special. If I'm gonna rent that space, I kind of want that corner to be able to be seen from Woodward. And if there's a lobby space right there for the building, that's going to be a largely empty space. So either that space needs to be activated somehow, have some sort of super graphics, something exciting, or does it have glass that goes into the retail on the other side of the lobby so that at least the retail can activate that corner? But yeah, that was sort of my first thought of it. And then obviously, as I've been watching 141 go up. My offices are in Folio, so I had to look directly at it. And then when I'm driving around the city, seeing how prominent 141 is in the skyline made me really think about this one. If 141 towers over Hambos, it's almost like a billboard. And now this would be the highest point right off of Woodward. So that whole upper area, that upper corner above the parking deck there is really a huge billboard to our city. And this would really be the part of our skyline. And so either that needs to be handled with some special care, or really make it a key element that it's going to be in all the pictures of Ferndale and all of that. So there needs to be some thought on how special that corner is, because it will be seen from everywhere. Let's see.
Can I go off of one of your
Sure,
points?
sure.
About activated corners. I think equally important is the Bermuda corner. We've got some great life happening that next block, starting below the lofts. I know the library's not open 24/7, but it's pretty active. A lot of people are at that intersection, either through the special events that we have or parking there and going across. So I think we'd miss a huge opportunity to not have any activation in that corner. And again, the idea that there could be any parking, interior parking with no activated space in front of it at a pedestrian level is just really something I think we should shy away from.
I think to the point, though, that was made, that we do have some probably vacant space and commercial space in Ferndale. I like that there's smaller commercial space, and that maybe that it can be flexible. And so I think to that point, obviously, you'll know what's in the market and build from there. But I think it's a good point to, like, what is going to activate our 9 Mile, I think is really important. And then how is it going to be active, being marketable enough? Yeah, from the audience.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, Ferndale resident. This is maybe just more like thoughts or feedback. I'm still kind of like processing this packet. I hadn't heard a whole lot about this, but we just mentioned a little bit about like the aesthetics and does this feel like Ferndale? I will say this development looks like the same as all the other developments I'm seeing everywhere. This kind of like slate granite look of like what, to me, I sort of think of as like gentrifier housing. This doesn't really feel like Ferndale to me, just for whatever that is worth. And also, on a more kind of substantive note, this is something maybe I missed. I got here a bit late. How much would it cost for residents to live here, ballpark? I know it says like market rate housing. I don't really know exactly what that means. So I'm just curious about those things and the observation about the aesthetics of it. I don't know. Whenever I see these buildings go up, I get kind of bummed. I don't think it helps the skyline. I don't think it feels cute or Ferndale, but that's just a thought. As opposed to the affordability question, I don't really know. That's a whole quagmire that I don't even really know how that stuff works. But it is something I think about because, we saw stuff happen. And the way that Royal Oak has developed is I don't really want Ferndale to be Royal Oak personally. I mean, anyway, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but I'm still wrapping my head around this.
Appreciate it. And hope for your continued engagement as you continue to wrap your head around it. As we said, hopefully we'll have lots of opportunities to do so as this moves forward, if it moves forward. So thank you for those points. We didn't talk about a lot, but so it is market rate housing. If you have anything further that you want to share in terms of what you've been looking at or what the market looks like these days, so that we all know that it's different than days past.
Walk, stretch your legs.
Just a couple of things, and I appreciate all the comments. And as I mentioned, I've been doing this a long time, and it is more brains the better. So I am not a developer, builder type person that says, it's got to be this way. And the input is fantastic. So I do welcome it, and I appreciate it. Just a couple of points of clarification is, that might help too, is that this is a, for Mike particularly, this is a revenue bond and not a general obligation bond. So the bond that gets issued, it has to get underwritten that the income and the TIF proceeds and all of that does support it. So it's not it's much different than a general obligation bond that has to be issued. And I've never done that before, but what Colleen's described to me, how it goes out for a vote and the millage and that whole thing. And so this is a different style of bond. So it really has to it goes for a very high level scrutiny to get approved through bond underwriters, and the dollars all work and everything. The one point that we shared with the business owners who are, very adamant about getting parking, on the flip side, is that we're able to deliver the garage portion of this project and bring that first floor online within 9 to 12 months. And so people can begin to park there, so it won't be down for the overall project, would be about 20 months, but we can bring that first floor on in a 9 to 12 month period and immediately bring that back online to help people. So that's, I think, a critical thing for everyone in the businesses. So I just wanted to share that with you. And again, on the design, I'm not a designer, and we're super open to all comments. And Jason, I know, is very open to doing that over many, many years, and that's not an issue with any of us. So.
And then the housing?
I'm sorry, the housing, they will be market rate, and the reason they have to be market rate is that the TIF that's going to be awarded, hopefully, maybe, on the project, all has to circulate back to the city to help retire the bonds. So and so the project is then unable to offer affordable units because of the trade-off with the TIF having to go to retire the parking deck and the bond on that.
And just so a non-developer is saying that, I work in affordable housing finance, and he's not just saying that because he wants to make more money. It's not possible, really, if you don't have a offsetting revenue source or equity source to provide. Just the numbers don't work these days. It's really hard to do housing, particularly affordable housing, particularly deeply affordable housing. So I think that without any offset, if we were able to somehow find, extra funding, that might be a different, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do want to say that without, city incentives throughout the country, it's really, really difficult to do,
So the pricing's, still, we haven't totally nailed that down yet, but about $1,900 to $2,700 a month. And then I just wanted to comment on the underground parking going down. It kills every project, basically. When you get down, as Jason said, it doubles or triples the cost, and it's really impossible to overcome that. We've looked at several things over the years, and our general contractors that we work with Tower, actually, who's building the Vesser, and we work with Cunningham Limp as a prominent GC in town, and people bring them projects, and they literally just stop and say it's not, and they get into it, and it's just makes it really financially unfeasible.
Through the chair, while we're talking, I've heard the $12 million number, and just breaking it out per the spots, like if it's just paying for the parking deck spots, it seems high, but could you talk about what's going into that $12 million number that the city, how did you come to that 12 million? What's all included in that?
Sure, and those are a bit preliminary because we don't have construction documents yet. But the majority of it, of course, is the vertical cost. The site work isn't too bad here because it's a confined site, and and the utilities are all along 9 Mile. So from a site development standpoint, it's not too bad. So probably 85% of that is the vertical cost for actually building the garage. Then you have architectural design, you have mechanical engineering, civil engineering, legal. You have bond cost, actually the interest that the bond has to load into it, all the fees that the bond has to incur, the city has to incur for the bond, to issue the bond, and all of that goes into that, which I frankly have never done, but your bond group, with Ross's help and Colleen's help, have kind of educated us on that, I guess is the best way to say it. And that's not inexpensive. So those are primarily the categories, I guess.
That's helpful. So as people, I guess, I know especially on the Ferndale Forum, as we were talking through, seeing comments on there, it's, that number is inclusive of all the different fees. It's not just construction costs. And
Correct.
that 85% is a good number to back out so that if people are doing research on what parking desks cost, that's really so you can do apples to apples if you're looking at what a typical parking deck might cost. But then you've got to add in all the architectural, MEP, professional costs, CM, and the bond costs, you know, so that's, I appreciate the breakdown.
Correct.
Yeah, through the chair, that lends itself to the discussion of if we could back out some of those administrative costs and just look at the true cost of like the stuff and how to put the stuff together. You mentioned vertical cost. I don't speak developer. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means.
I'm sorry, yeah, everything above the ground.
Okay.
I mean, I'd say 85% is the cost, and I don't have this with me, but when I say verticals, yeah, everything above ground level. And in that number actually would be some level of site work that's included to just get the site ready from a utility standpoint.
Great. Ross, I would say if you can start working with Colleen on a better explanation to council and to the commission about the kind of costs of materials and how that would all look versus like the bond cost, which I did not know was factored into this, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Thanks.
We've actually talked about, this is, I guess, a good time of any, talked about having a potential, like information or like educational session at the planning commission or something about development costs and financing development, because it is something that nobody really knows about. Not nobody, obviously. But it's such a, you know, I think it would be really helpful. I think we've had so many conversations about affordable housing and just development in general. Like, I think it'd be just a nice, like, little information kind of 101 type session. And so now might be a good time to do it, particularly to do something like a public-private partnership. Obviously, parking decks are not a typical type of development, but if we're going to go through this process, it'd be really helpful to have some of those conceptions and, yeah, all the jargon and all the finance structures that we don't understand. I think it would be really helpful.
If I may, at this city council strategic visioning session, housing was a main concern, right? Like looking at our housing strategies. So I think that, and we are working with OHM consultants. So I think that we are gonna do a comprehensive audit of our tools and resources that we have and kind of revamp all of our policies around how we administer our incentives. So I think that will be a really good opportunity when we begin that process of updating our housing strategy.
Jenna has a question. You wanna?
I've got another one.
Okay.
Just one more quick question. So if these prices go up like this, doesn't it affects, you know, averages in the city, like affordability of housing in the city, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Like if you're charging, are these apartments or are they, okay, so they're to rent or lease. Okay. So that's gonna, right, make housing less available and affordable in the city in general too. So, I mean, it's something to think about.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it can
Raises
potentially
the
have
bar.
that effect, definitely. There is, increasing the supply will probably have a negligible effect at this scale on the affordability. But when you do build more housing, if you increase supply and you have, you know, similar demand, then technically, economically, you know, prices can lower. I think we have such a housing crisis right now, adding 86 units. We're probably not going to see a big change in the market, but it will allow, and we do have a housing crisis, it will allow for added units into the market that should actually be a help. But you're right, it will, you know, it will still affect, you know, housing costs are continuing to rise, and this isn't going to potentially lower that, but it will allow different options and availability of housing, which is needed.
And through the chair, if I may briefly, there's market rate and there's subsidized. And Michael, you were talking about, you know, we give these handouts to developers, and what do we get in return? it was one of those moments that, you know, when we're looking at a project like this, we have to ask the question. So we have these affordable housing units that we've created with the Raymond Shepherd House, which is deeply affordable. There's affordability components that we put into 141 Vester. There's affordability components that we put into the one that was approved but is not yet starting to be built over on like the 9 and Pinecrest area and the empty lot. And there's a delicate balance between do we want to subsidize through like tax incentives, or do we want to capture the money that we have? And so when we talk about affordability in this context, that's the part that council's weighing pretty heavily, where it becomes a question of, in a spot like this, is this another spot that we want to forego tax revenue when we know we're hurting for it, when we know how we have to find a way to pay for anything that we do? Or, and if we're doing that, what are we giving up in return? Or what are we getting in return? Are we getting affordable units that would be deeply affordable, long-term affordable? So it's a delicate balance, but it's something that we're talking about at the council level as well.
Yeah, if I could. Just thinking about a worst-case scenario here. I think for me, a worst case would be if we were to build this parking deck and then some risk were to prevent you from finishing the residential portion. And I think of interest rate spikes, I think of material costs that might spike. Do you have you given consideration to that, and what does that look like in a shaky economic environment?
So we always build in a pretty significant contingency in the project costs. And it is a risk business. I mean, they're always, you know, I couldn't stand here and say that it's, you know, it's a risk-free. It does carry a level of risk, but I'll say that apartments, high-end multifamily fares very well in that condition, just multifamily and rental multifamily in general, as opposed to condominiums or other type of products. So it does weather that storm quite well. And normally, if you go back over 30 years in recession, other than the 2008, which is 2007, 2008 period, they're normally about 16 to 18 months is a recession kind of tricky period, I would call it. So depending on when you start and stop, and sometimes you can build right through it, and you know, it's often, and particularly for multifamily rental, it is not normally an issue. If construction prices went through the roof because of the war continuing and all that, then I think we've all got a bigger problem, and we all have to kind of just buckle down and deal with that. When we sign construction loans with the banks, we have a completion guarantee that is required. So with the bank, we have to finish. We are personally on the hook for that. So, we have, fortunately, because of our long track record in the industry, we have very substantial investment partners with us that have very big balance sheets that can handle that. But that is a requirement with construction lending, that you sign a completion guarantee that you will finish the building.
And is your understanding that that happens at the same time as we kick off the parking structure? What I mean to say is that you wouldn't have to, you're not going to wait to sign that completion agreement until after the parking structure is complete, right?
No, correct. It all goes at once, because there's several things all converging at one time to get the parking deck built and the multifamily built above it.
Okay.
And I think that was what they were alluding to the one-phase project. This is not multi-phase.
Right.
Yeah, there's infrastructure that's required for both. It all has to go.
Yep. I ask all that against the backdrop of the DOT project, and so that's why. Thank you.
James?
Thank you. I had a comment, or maybe a recommendation, and then a quick question. The recommendation is sort of going back to the transportation side of things, which is that this is a prominent and highly used part of the downtown for pedestrians and bicyclists in particular. It's also a major east-west transit route. Line 710 through Smart runs through here and stops multiple times an hour right across the street. And I'm wondering, because this is an opportunity to, I mean, we're accessing utilities through the 9 mile right of way anyways. This is an opportunity to rethink the streetscape itself and potentially move the curb. And I'm wondering, looking immediately east of Bermuda, there is a slightly different apportionment of space in the cross section there in terms of how wide the bike lane is, how much buffer the bike lane receives, where the on-street parking is, and whether it's protected by curbs and bump outs. I think the on-street parking here would be serving less of a vital need in an environment where there's 250 spots in the garage immediately adjacent to it. And that if we are honest and say maybe we only need 2 or 3 spots for deliveries and rideshare or DoorDash or whatever, I think that really opens up an opportunity for a much wider pedestrian and what we say in transportation, non-motorized space. So you can imagine that however you want, whether it's bicyclists, people pushing strollers, e-bikes, whatever it may be. But basically taking space away from those parked cars and reintroducing a wide pedestrian space that feels comfortable and still separated from the vehicles going east and west on 9 Mile. I don't have a recommendation for what exactly that should look like, but I do think that on-street parking its benefit would be much lower in a condition where we have a ton of off-street parking immediately adjacent to it at the same price point too, because both of which would be city administered. And then my question is this part of the transit-oriented development overlay district that the city's adopted, or is this just outside of that? Because this sort of fits some of the goals of the transit-oriented development overlay district in terms of increased density. Whether or not it's officially in that district, is there any kind of programming, incentive, or otherwise for residents to make use of the major transit corridors that are immediately nearby? Woodward, SMART is increasing the frequency of the fast service along Woodward. There's also local SMART service north and south on Woodward. And as I mentioned, the 710 line that goes east and west. There's a lot of investment in increasing the reliability and frequency of transit right through our downtown. And I think these are some high probability users that would be moving into this space. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate the comment. I do believe that through our zoning rewrite, the past couple years, we, integrated the pedestrian and cyclist qualities throughout the zoning ordinance and removed the TOD, but it looks like staff is shaking head. So we no longer have that TOD, but we have integrated the qualities of it, I think, kind of throughout. And so rather than just identifying, on the transit-oriented corridors, TOD being transit-oriented development, where it's a practice where you kind of identify where you might want more density along transit corridors because you'll have different options for transit so that you might not need as much automotive. Obviously, this works in some cities better than others. Always Metro Detroit is a little bit difficult to implement. However, it's still something that we do believe in, and I think we've heard from our residents that walking and biking is really important. Having a walkable downtown is very important to us. So this is something that we just more so integrated into our zoning, and rather than having an overlay design. So yes, we, for every development, look at how can pedestrians, bicyclists, and autos circulate, and what is that pedestrian experience going to look like? And I think we require bike parking for every new development.
Through the chair, I believe just 87% of this development is 1 bedroom, correct? So I'm a little bit concerned about that with our housing goals, because I do believe we're trying to have more multifamily. So for me, I would love to see more 2 bedrooms possibly, or maybe studios. I'm not sure if that's possible.
There's as part of the, I'm sorry, Jason, but as part of the 1 bedrooms, there's a design for, I don't know how many of them, but we have like a studio flex 1 bedroom.
Okay.
Which is really, we did it in Troy when we built it. It's a very successful style because of the price points. And it provides a 1 bedroom, but it's designed like a studio. It's hard to describe until you see the floor plan, but it's really a clever design that Krieger has that it's
Like a loft kind of setup?
Yeah, but it's, best way to describe it is it's a studio /1. I guess the best way.
Chris, I would push back on that a little bit, being as a lot of single owners are buying up houses in the city, and so it's a house that maybe had 4 people living in it has 1 person living in it. So this gives some market viability for those 1 unit owners, and it potentially frees up housing for more owners throughout the city, is my thought.
I may have more. I would agree that the current market studies show that there's more of a tendency for a need for 1 bedroom versus 2. But I'm sure that the developer, as you said, it's not just the developer doing the numbers, but all the financiers are also going to underwrite the projects and contrast this against current market studies, what's available, what's the vacancy rates are. So I would think that this will very much be vetted in terms of what the market is dictating. But I think that I think it's a good point that we need to, be aware of, and not just, you talk about the homes, Commissioner Mashali. I think it's also important, though, that, renting and owning is a little bit different. And so, making sure that we're obviously being aware of that. And I think that will be shown through a market study as well. But yeah, thank you. That is a good point in terms of looking at. I do think, though, that I'm sure that if we had more, 2 bedrooms or even 3 bedrooms, it would kind of take away from the count of the units, which I'm sure will also play into the financing of the project.
Correct. Yeah, it's a tough, it's one of those things that keeps me up at night, frankly. Trying to find that perfect blend and that line that makes the project feasible, but also hits the market. And it's one of those things, and it's hard. It really is hard. It's ones that us builders and developers talk about all the time, trying to find that lane, to make it work for everybody, basically. That's hard. But so it'll get played with a little bit as we get hopefully to the finish line here, or start line. But it is a tough thing, but we are open to all comment on it, of course, because the city as well as anybody, so.
And I think to Commissioner Maxwell's point, Maxwell, right? Manuel, sorry. I knew I said it wrong that time, sorry. Sorry, it's his first night, and high stress for me, remembering all the names. That you can't always foresee everything, right? There's all these scenarios we cannot foresee, and so I'm sure that's mostly what keeps you up at night. And I think for us, it's well, what do we want? And projecting, and I think there was a comment, it's well, if you build it, they don't always come. And so there's always a fine balance, and I think that, which is why it's really great, I think that we're bringing multi lenses to this to really show. So I do appreciate it. I do also want to be respectful of our time. I'm not going to close this off. I do just want to kind of note that we're almost getting to a 2-hour mark here. I want to comment and say this is not normal for us. I think it's been really helpful to have the back and forth. I don't think it's probably feasible that we do this every time, but it really shows what I think what a kind of historic project this is. It will be a future development in our downtown. It is a public-private partnership. We're really going to put the time and effort to hopefully get it right in terms of the process and obviously ultimately the outcome. So I really appreciate it. And with that being said, does anyone have any additional comments or questions or final points?
Quick question. What happens when we pay ourselves back and it's over? So when the 12, 14 million might be a stupid question, but you said we use it in reimbursement. So what happens when that's gone? What happens to our taxes? Do we just pay off the bond, we're done, or do our tax rates go up, down? Do we lose money as a city? Do we gain money? What happens to the actual taxable value that we capture and bring into the city as far as taxable revenue? Or just,
Thanks,
does that
Mike.
just stay even the entire time and then we just pay off the bond and we're done? See you, bye?
Yeah,
Thanks, Mike. Do you want to just repeat the question, please, for the record, since we're recording? I need to have a microphone.
I don't know. So what happens once the bond is paid off, essentially? So once the bond is paid off, yeah, the bond's done, the tax revenue goes back into the general fund. It's as if any other developer, like a single-family home paying taxes to the city, it goes back to the general fund, and it's general fund dollars.
And then the parking revenue would go into the parking fund.
Correct.
So the parking revenue would go into the parking fund and then the other stuff would go into the general fund.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yes.
Just something else to think about. I'm sorry. But not, anyways, it seems like what, $1,900 to $2,900 for an apartment. If I were somebody, you know, interested in investing or having a place to live, I would. There's a deposit, I'm sure, right? So it's like $4,000 just to move into an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment. Wouldn't that person want to buy a house or buy a condo? It just seems like a improbable scenario. I mean, you know, I'm not a financial whiz, but I would just think, oh, I have $4,000. I'm not gonna rent an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment. I'm gonna try to look for a house or a condo to invest in, right? So it just seems kind of impractical.
No, it's a valid thought. And isn't it crazy to think of how high housing costs are right now? It's just really impossible. We're unfortunately a bit lucky, and I say unfortunately in that doesn't sound lucky because that is very high, but we actually have a quite affordable market in Detroit, contrasted across the United States. It's just a really impossible situation that we have. I would say to the point that not everyone has the ability to buy a home, just in terms of being able to have the credit to get a mortgage or the down payment. Yes, obviously, like having a deposit is a lot, but having a down payment can be really prohibitive as well. So it is nice to have a mix of options because sometimes, unfortunately, people have to rent. Also, a lot of times people want to rent, and there's just an option that people don't want to own a home. So I think it's nice to have a mix, and it is just crazy to think about how that cost, isn't it?
If I may, just for a second, there's two dynamic shifts that have gone on in real estate in the country that are just simply very, very interesting. One is that the younger people who would normally be trying to buy a house in their late 20s or that group of people, a large percentage of them are not wanting to buy a house and they're wanting to put their money in the market. So that's a known kind of real estate investment fact that there's what used to be, you know, for people that are our age or my age or Jason's, that is not a universal anymore. That those younger people want to be in the market and not in real estate. So there's a group that's not happening for, and then you have the post-COVID midlife, my age, you know, 55 to 70 age, that say, you know, we don't want to own anymore. We want the flexibility. COVID was jarring. We want to be able to visit our kids. We want to go to Florida. We want to rent. We want no responsibility. And that group has come up. So you have those two groups that have flooded into the multifamily world that want to rent. It's just one of these things. I don't know how long it'll go on, but that is a current situation in the real estate asset world that's going on.
It's changing markets, and I think providing some flexibility and resilience in being able to have more units is helpful. But I reflect on when I first moved to Ferndale 15 years ago, I think I paid like $500 to rent a house like downtown. So, I mean, it's just,
$395 in Wexham for a apartment. Right.
It's just so crazy to think about but to the point of supply and demand, I mean, that is one of the ways that we're going to affect the prices in this nation is to build more housing. I think it's projected that we're shy of 7 million homes across America. Development hasn't kept up with demand, mostly because of the Great Recession and then COVID, and we've just had a sluggish development market. And obviously, there's other factors as well, Airbnb or whatnot, and what is it called?
Short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals, thank you, have come into the market. There's obviously several factors, but we are in the situation where unfortunately, that is the market price for a rental. And so we are trying on various levels and through conversations of like, what can we think of to make this better? Is there other solutions? But definitely adding units to the market is one surefire way to at least improve.
Through the chair, I think I just want to acknowledge the comments on like the demographic where I think the ARP has coined like my favorite term of the silver tsunami that's coming, where our population over 65 is set to double by 2050. And that's something we acknowledge quite a bit in the community accessible and inclusive housing action plan was the need for more residents where people can age in place and enjoy those later years in a lot of ways, which the Ferndale stock today of a lot of single-family homes, a lot of bungalow formats. We have very few ranches across all of Ferndale. There's a lot of barriers for folks to age in place in those terms. So I think something, I guess, circling back to the housing formats of maybe looking at our type A accessible housing and making sure that we're appealing to that, because what we don't want to do is create something that only appeals to the affordability of the silver tsunami that's coming, and then they can't live there. So something to consider is making sure we're thinking of barrier-free units and embracing some of the guidance from MISHDA and others on going above those minimums.
I have one more, actually. It just, the discussion around housing ownership made me think of it. Is there any, is this being built in such a way that it would ever be, and I'm thinking of metering specifically, converted to condo units in the future? Or is that something you've done in the past or tried to do?
We've never done it and not contemplated here.
Yeah.
You mean metering for like electrical?
I'm
et
just,
cetera?
yeah, I was just wondering, is the intention for this is to be continually used for a rental asset going forward?
Correct.
Managed by, and it's managed by your company as well?
We have a third party that we work with that helps us manage it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, final call? Well, not final, because we'll have continued discussion, but maybe final for this evening. We really appreciate the time everyone is spending to participate in this process. So we really appreciate project partners, the staff, our residents, and the commission, so engaging, so we can work towards a great project here. So appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we do have a couple more items for the city commission. So if there is any conversation, if you could, move it out to the hallway, we'll be quick here if you want to stay with us as well. And if anyone did have any, actually, call to audiences next. If you want to talk about anything other than this development, we do have an opportunity for that as well. Thank you. All right, Jenny. I want to say Jenny from the block.
Yes, that's me. Jenny Beaker, I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Development Authority in Ferndale. We are holding an information session that will be next Wednesday at Sidecar Slider Bar from 5:30 to 7. This serves a few different purposes. We are governed by PA 57, which has requirements of our TIF that funds most of our downtown activities. Part of that is that we have to have board members, and one of them has to be a resident. So this particular info session is meant to inform downtown residents of the TIF, what we do and how they can get involved. We're actively seeking 2 other vacancies as well. So we have 3 current vacancies, one of which has to be a downtown TIF resident. So happy to share more of what that means and like more approachable language. So we're going to be at Sidecar Slider Bar starting at 5:30 with the brief presentation starting at 6 p.m. and then some socializing before and after that. So wanted to encourage people, if you know any business owners, property owners, they can even just work in the downtown district. You don't have to be an owner, quote unquote, of anything. But just let us know. We're happy to engage and entertain more information. Thank you.
Jenny, do they have to register or anything, or can you just come?
Yep, you can just come. And we will be putting up, I've been working on some of the promotional items for tonight. You'll see it on our social media and Facebook, and we're sharing the information around. And then we'll have like an RSVP or interest via Facebook, but no formal reservation needed. Thank you.
All right, next we have a few administrative items, including introduction of our new planning commissioners. You might have already noticed that they have joined us this evening. And so we wanted to give an opportunity to have them introduce themselves, and we can, maybe it's helpful for us to all introduce ourselves to each other. Do we normally do that when there's a new? Yes. So do you guys want to go first, or would you like to hear from us first?
You guys go first.
Okay. We'll want to start with our city council rep. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Laura Mikulski, Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Ferndale, longtime resident. I think it's been 20 years now, just terrifying. New to the Planning Commission, haven't had many meetings under my belt, but very excited to be here.
Deb Brazen, 24-year resident of Ferndale, I think. Been on the planning commissions and for, again, like almost 20 years. I'm a owner's rep at an educational community, and welcome to Ferndale Planning Commission.
Michelle Foster, I just did the math, it's 17 years. So it was definitely the Great Recession when I had those great rental prices. But I work in affordable housing finance, like I said earlier. I had a 10-year career in urban planning, through which at one point I actually worked for the city of Ferndale, and have been on the commission for a number of years that I don't remember.
Christopher Hall. I've been in Ferndale. It will be 6 years in November. I work at Nationwide, and I work within their enterprise data office in their technology sector.
Hi, Krista is our architect by trade, work project management in a design firm. Longtime resident and longtime planning commissioner.
Sam Michelli, Ferndale resident for 19 years. My house is right downtown on Breckenridge, so it's right behind Flytrap. My office for the firm that I work for, I'm an architect. We design K-12 schools. We're currently working on the renovations for Ferndale Middle School, High School, which is a big project for us. Our offices are right inside Folio, so right next to this development that we've been talking about tonight. So very focused on downtown, and have a background not only just in schools, but also in residential, and been on the Planning Commission a little over 2 years now, and former Zoning Board of Appeals member.
Let's go to Alan.
My name's Alan Hale. I have been, I'm a 13-year Ferndale resident. It's the longest I've ever lived in one place in my life. My dad was in the Coast Guard, so I grew up all over the place. I've led the Accessibility Commission, our Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission, for a little more than 7 years. And I'm stepped down to come and join the Planning Commission. Through that, I've worked with a lot of you in the past in different capacities. But I've been through 2 master plan processes, the Parks and Rec Plan, Woodward Moves, the Climate Action Plan, our Accessible Inclusive Housing Action Plan, just been really excited to bring accessibility perspectives through that. A lot of the passion that kind of reignited that commission was back in 2018. A lot of new businesses were opening in Ferndale that weren't accessible. And a lot of folks know my wife is a wheelchair user who's at Ford Motor Company. Now we've got a 1-year-old with us as well. We're seeing again that more and more places are opening that aren't accessible. And in the context of adaptive reuse and other things, I think we still have an opportunity in Ferndale to do better. And I think my comments earlier on We have about 15% of Ferndale residents have different various disabilities. I myself am disabled with a lot of non-apparent disabilities. And yeah, I think we've just got a real opportunity. Professionally, I'm also a consultant across the mobility industry, so I work on making autonomous vehicles and EV charging more accessible at kind of the international level. And that intersects a lot with planning. So I've been an APA member for some time, and in the context of how do we put these new modes of transportation into cities and make them work for folks. So I'm excited to bring the little slices of what I can to Ferndale, and I'm excited to serve in the Planning Commission. Thanks.
Excited to have you. Thank you. Alex.
Dang, tough act to follow. Okay. Good evening, Alex Manuel. I live at 141 Jewel Street.
You don't have a silver hammer? Sorry.
I don't, no. But
Sorry.
that's okay. This is my first foray into city government, but I'm thrilled to be here. My background is largely around the world of civil engineering, and we'll call it real estate adjacent work. And so I started working for MDOT, doing road construction oversight and water system installation. And so that's a fun part of my background that I don't want to revisit. But then I've done brownfield cleanups for an engineering firm. I've been the person in the field taking samples like Aaron Brockovich. And now I work for the world's largest insurance brokerage. And what I do there is essentially appraising property that they're insuring or that they're writing insurance policies on. And so factories, power plants, sometimes municipal stuff, buildings like this, schools, churches, unique real estate of various shapes, sizes, and kinds. That's what I do. I look at it and I put cost to it. And so I'm looking forward to applying that here and getting to know you all better and making our town brighter and brighter.
Do you work with Nationwide?
Yeah, we do. Well, sometimes, yes, we do.
Right,
Yes, don't worry. Yeah, we'll plug.
We're on each other's side then.
Yes.
Thank you. Pleasure to have you. So welcome new members. And I believe we have another administrative item from our staff.
Yeah, so still going to work on the immigration detention facilities and data centers, zoning amendments. We just met with OHM a few days ago. They did a very, very in-depth analysis of our zoning, like where we could make zoning amendment changes. Also, there's another path where we could make changes in our master plan that could infer changes in our zoning. So essentially, there was so much information we didn't want to like overload you guys. So next steps that they proposed and that we kind of agreed to was having an internal meeting with legal, depending on where are we within the right legal framework to be making these changes. Is there anything that we need to be cognizant of? And then coming back to Planning Commission with our consultants to do a workshop to really get the direction of the Planning Commission where we want to go with this. Because do we want to ban it outright? Do we want to have specific regulations around design guidelines? I think that was spoken to at our previous meeting. But really get them and the commission, all of us in the same room, do a workshop, invite the public out, get that input so that we can move forward with zoning text amendments.
Thank you. And can we anticipate that would be at our next meeting?
Yes, I mean, it will be a busy meeting. Right now, I think we have potentially 3 projects, but we can definitely squeeze that in.
I think that would be appreciated since I think we probably think of it as a time-sensitive issue to make the decision to.
Sure.
Yeah, through the chair, where are we at in terms of the timeline for the moratorium?
I believe one ends in September and the other ends in October.
Okay.
So we have some time, and I think that I haven't spoken with legal yet, but I think there's the opportunity to extend those, especially if we're continually working on zoning amendment changes. So I can get with legal on that. But I don't really see that being an issue here. The amount of work that's already gone into the, understanding our zoning ordinance by our consultants is great. So it's really just getting the feedback from you guys.
It is an award. Didn't we win an award for the zoning ordinance? No? It's been talked about a lot.
Yes. I know the master plan won an award.
Maybe it's just the master plan.
Yeah, that was a master
Anywho,
plan.
I'm saying it's been talked about. I'm sure OHM is already peeping it. so,
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, thank you. And so it sounds like we do have some time, so if we don't necessarily have to rush it, but, so it sounds like we will have a meeting next month. In the past, we have, as we cancel our meetings without agenda items, in the past, we did have 2 meetings a month. I just want to put that out there. I know that spring, summer can be busy times, so, let us know if you think it would be helpful to break it up, if there are time-sensitive, items. Are there any other administrative items for this evening?
There was a request from Commissioner Hall for an update on previously approved planning commission projects. I have the PowerPoint ready, or I could just send that out to you all after this meeting.
Are those the items that we received in our annual report a couple months ago?
It was from 2024. There was a list of, I think, like 6 properties. He just wanted, and that was brought up at the last meeting that I would provide that to you all. So whether PowerPoint presentation right now or.
If you have it, I think, why not? Cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Typically, we do have our planning commission meetings on the third week of the month. I do just want to clarify that we will be meeting the June 24th date. So just keep that on your radars. I know we kind of
We already
pushed that
discussed
out
that.
as well, but
Thank you.
just a reminder.
Appreciate that. I will say, I do have a conflict July 15th, so just fair warning. And for new commissioners, reminders for other commissioners, I know summer can be difficult, just as soon as you know that you might have a conflict, let staff know so we can make sure that we have quorum and schedule around it as needed.
All right, thank you. So going through these, 1120 East 9 Mile was a mixed-use development approved for 19 upper-level residential units with 15,000 square foot of ground-level retail. I did call them. They requested an extension. Administratively, after a planning commission approval is good for 2 years, and then the CED director can grant an extension of up to 18 months, I believe. So that extension was requested and approved. According to the property owner, demolition and site prep is to beginning here soon. So, and that was facilitated after our.
Where is that?
Yeah, where's
right by 9 to 5.
Sliders.
Yeah.
Oh,
By the
okay.
church.
Oh, other side. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is
No,
it
this
East
is
Mile?
9
It's
Mile.
East 9 Mile, so it's right
Oh,
by
I was thinking
9 to
West
5.
9 Mile.
I believe
down
it's the southeast corner of 9 Mile and, is it Wanda?
I guess I could just pull it up
Yes,
here.
please. It's just before Fleet, if you're heading eastbound.
Okay, thank you.
It's across the street from where I live at.
Jeez. I'm using
The old barn house. I think.
using Bing here, so.
Yes, old barn house.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Cool. All right.
To the comment about architectural design, they do look a lot alike.
3101 Bermuda. This was a 487 3-story self-storage unit. It is occupied by the applicant. However, building permits for the expansion has expired. I did call the applicant, and they were sort of. It seems like they kind of forgot about it. I'm not really sure. They're in the process of figuring out exactly where they are with things. So, not a whole lot there. 2000 West 8 Mile. This is a 318,000 square foot expansion to an existing industrial facility. No work has been conducted. However, a brownfield plan has been submitted recently, and that is currently in review. So that will probably be coming to the Brownfield Authority here soon once we do an internal review with the incentives committee. 651 Livernois is a multi-unit, 26 residential on a vacant property. No work has been conducted and is actually currently listed for sale. So we did have recent interest in this one, I believe. right, yeah. 22438 Woodward, conversion of existing nearly 15,000 square foot vacant commercial medical office. No work has been conducted, and it is currently advertised for lease. That's it.
Were any of those TIF projects?
So the mixed-use developments, no, that Bermuda wasn't. This is the only brownfield TIF project that would be proposed that still hasn't been considered yet.
Got it.
In my understanding that there was a brownfield plan submitted a year ago, or maybe even longer than that. And then with the tariffs, that kind of threw the whole project into jeopardy. Now that we're kind of coming up from the tariffs seemingly, they're coming back to the table and resubmitting, so.
Thank you. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was, I wanted, because I was wondering about all of this.
It's a lot of development to get approved and not go forward.
Yeah.
Right.
There's only so much that we can do to really get them going, right? That Livernois project would have been, that's a great infill development project, but,
Be interesting to try and hear for them if you have the discussions with them on why.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, next is commission items. Since that BZA meeting that was recent, did we already give an update on that? Okay, we did. That was last time, right? Okay. Any other commission updates? All right, well, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:41 PM. Thank you, everyone.